A magnificent bull was thrown to the ground with a broken back, its life seemingly over, until a mysterious stranger in a black hat arrived and fixed it. What happens next will leave you speechless. The bull hit the ground with a bone-jarring crash that echoed across the Redstone rodeo arena. Dust kicked up in a thick cloud, coating the spectators' boots and clinging to their clothes, making the air almost suffocating. Brutus, the pride of Riverbend Ranch, lay sprawled on his side, his massive frame trembling but unmoving in the most unnatural way. His spine was twisted at an angle no bull should ever have, and the crowd froze in horror. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers as fathers clutched their sons, ranch hands stepped back instinctively, and bets that had seemed safe moments ago suddenly felt foolish. Garrick Hayes tore through the crowd, his rope clutched tightly in one hand, knuckles white from the grip. Every step he took kicked up more dust, leaving trails that marked his frantic rush. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a cruel reminder that this wasn't just about the bull. This was about Riverbend Ranch itself. A broken back didn't just mean Brutus would be lost. It meant the financial ruin that Garrick had spent years trying to avoid. The bank had been breathing down his neck for months, and Brutus wasn't just livestock. He was insurance, pride, and hope rolled into a single, living, breathing force. Before Garrick could reach him, a shadow moved across the sun-drenched arena. A man stepped over the fence with a grace that seemed out of place among the chaos. He wore a long black coat that swayed with each measured step, and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. Cole Maddox. No one recognized him. He didn't look like a veterinarian. No white coat, no stethoscope, nothing resembling the tools Garrick had expected. But there was something in his eyes, sharp and calculating, that cut through the crowd's murmurs. His hands moved with quiet authority as he approached Brutus, kneeling beside the bull with the calm of a man who had seen this scene before, a man who knew precisely what to do. "Step back!" Garrick shouted, desperation cracking his voice. He lunged toward the stranger, panic making him reckless. "This isn't your fight! Get away from him!" Cole ignored him entirely, his eyes scanning the twisted spine with a precision that sent a chill down Garrick's spine. He laid a steady hand on Brutus's flank, then traced the line of the broken vertebrae with deliberate care. "He's not lost," Cole said quietly, almost as if he were speaking to himself. His voice was calm, low, and carried a strange authority that silenced the murmurs of the crowd. "But you can't interfere. One wrong move, and he'll never rise again." The crowd's whispers rose again, this time edged with a mixture of fear and awe. Some muttered that Cole was mad, a drifter with no business touching such a prized animal. Others whispered old cowboy legends of men who could read an animal's bones, men whose knowledge was part skill, part mystery. Garrick's chest tightened as he watched Cole's movements, unsure if he was witnessing brilliance or madness. His own hands itched to intervene, but he remembered the cruel lesson that brute force could only make matters worse. From the sidelines, laughter broke the tension, mocking, cruel, and deliberate. Benton Crow leaned lazily against the rails, arms crossed over his broad chest. His smirk was smug, predatory, like a man who knew he had already won before the fight had even started. Behind him, his men mirrored his attitude, casting sly grins toward Riverbend's anxious owner. They had bet heavily against Brutus, against Riverbend, and now they had the satisfaction of seeing Garrick's prized bull broken on the dirt. Benton's voice carried just enough for Garrick to hear. "Looks like the mighty Brutus isn't so mighty after all," he called, the words dripping with smug delight. "Maybe you should have stayed in the barn, Hayes. Would have saved yourself the trouble." Garrick's stomach churned. He wanted to charge Benton, wanted to knock that smug grin off his face, but the sight of Brutus, the trembling, wounded bull, kept him rooted. Rage mixed with fear, uncertainty gnawed at him. Could he trust this stranger? Could he risk letting some unknown man handle the only thing that mattered most? And yet, he also knew that hesitation could be just as deadly. Cole's movements were methodical, almost ritualistic. He produced from a leather satchel what looked like an assortment of crude tools, none of which Garrick recognized. Ropes, wooden splints, herbs in small bundles, strips of canvas, each item handled with an intimate knowledge that spoke of years of experience. Cole worked in silence, occasionally murmuring to Brutus in a voice so soft it seemed only the bull could hear. Garrick noticed the way Brutus's nostrils flared, and his eyes tracked Cole's hands with a quiet understanding, as if the bull knew this man wasn't here by chance. "Back up!" Cole finally commanded, his voice sharper this time, authoritative, leaving no room for hesitation. "Give me space, or you'll cost him his life." Garrick stepped back, uncertain whether to obey or intervene. He studied Cole's face, trying to decipher any clue of incompetence. There was none, only focus, only precision, only a calm that seemed impossible in the chaos surrounding them. From the crowd, someone shouted, "Is he really going to fix him? Or is this the end?" A hush fell over the arena again, heavier than before. Garrick's mind raced. He remembered fleeting rumors from years past, whispers of a black-hatted drifter who had appeared in Redstone before, always in moments of disaster, always where things seemed hopeless. No one knew who he was or where he came from, but those who had glimpsed him remembered a man capable of extraordinary skill and extraordinary danger. Benton's laughter grew louder, more biting. "Hope your bull likes strangers, Hayes," he jeered, "because it looks like he's going to meet one soon." The crowd flinched at the words, sensing the tension thickening, almost electric, in the air. Garrick felt a knot tighten in his chest. Benton's men shifted, some stepping closer to the fence, testing boundaries, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Cole ignored Benton entirely, moving as if the smug rancher and his cronies didn't exist. He leaned closer to Brutus, adjusting the bull's legs and pressing along the spine with deliberate pressure, listening for the subtle sounds of shifting bones. The crowd gasped again, this time at a low, resonant groan from the bull. Garrick's heart leapt. Was it pain, or was it progress? He couldn't tell. Cole's lips moved in a quiet chant, almost imperceptible, and Garrick noticed the calm precision in every action. Every motion, every touch, was part of something larger. "Trust me," Cole said softly, as if Garrick could hear the unspoken truth beneath the words. "One wrong move, and it's over. But if we do this right—" He didn't finish, leaving the promise dangling in the heavy air. Garrick wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to the fragile thread of hope, yet a part of him remained skeptical. A stranger in a black hat, working miracles in the dirt with no introduction or credentials. Was this courage or madness? Benton's smirk faltered, just slightly, and Garrick noticed it. A flicker of uncertainty crossed the rival rancher's face, a shadow that betrayed a hint of fear. Cole's presence was not just unexpected, it was disruptive. And Garrick realized, with a sinking feeling, that Cole Maddox was here for more than just Brutus. This man had plans, and Garrick had just become a part of them, whether he liked it or not. The tension in the arena reached a peak, every man watching with bated breath as Cole pressed on. Brutus shifted slightly, his massive muscles quivering under the stranger's touch. Garrick's chest tightened as he leaned forward, eyes fixed on the bull's spine, silently willing the beast to respond. The murmur of the crowd was a low hum now, anticipation lacing every whispered word. No one dared interfere. Everyone seemed aware that this moment was fragile, ephemeral, and could end in disaster at any second. And then, as Cole adjusted the final splint and murmured once more to Brutus, Garrick noticed something he hadn't expected. A flicker of recognition in Benton's eyes. A flash that suggested the smug rancher knew something about this man he had never admitted. The realization made Garrick shiver. Whatever Cole Maddox was capable of, whatever past had brought him here, it was clear he was not just fixing a bull. He was rewriting a story that had already begun long before anyone stepped foot in the arena that day. The crowd leaned forward as if drawn by an invisible current. Garrick's heart pounded. Dust swirled in golden sunlight, shadows stretching long across the arena floor. The heat pressed down, yet the air was electric with anticipation. Every hand, every eye, every breath was held captive by the stranger in the black hat and the bull that refused to die quietly. Cole calmly told Garrick he could fix Brutus, but only if no one interfered. His confidence rattled Garrick, who couldn't decide if this was hope or madness. As Garrick hesitated, a group of rival ranchers from the Iron Bend outfit, led by the smug Benton Crow, leaned against the rails with mocking grins. They had bet heavily on Brutus failing, and saw this as their moment to crush Riverbend completely. What no one in the crowd knew was that Cole Maddox had been in Redstone before, long ago, under very different circumstances, and this was not the first time he had come to fix something broken. Cole opened his leather kit with deliberate care, the soft creak of worn hinges cutting through the stunned silence of the arena. Inside lay an assortment of tools, each one arranged with meticulous precision. Wooden splints, ropes, bundles of herbs, and small metal instruments whose purposes were unclear, all gleamed faintly in the late afternoon sun. Garrick Hayes stood close enough to feel the heat radiating from Brutus's massive body, yet far enough to give the stranger space. He was torn between awe and terror, trust and disbelief. Every movement Cole made was calm, purposeful, and unnervingly precise. Brutus let out a low groan, each breath ragged and uneven, his muscles quivering under the weight of his own frame. Garrick's hands clenched at his sides, the rope he had been holding now hanging slack. He felt every heartbeat as though it were a drum signaling impending doom. Cole adjusted Brutus's massive head, tilting it slightly, and pressed along the spine in slow, measured motions. Each subtle pop of bone made the crowd flinch, a collective shiver running through the spectators as if the sound itself carried electricity. Benton Crow, leaning against the rail with arms crossed, scoffed loudly. "Call a real vet, Hayes," he muttered, voice dripping with condescension. "That hobo's going to kill your bull before you even blink." His laugh, sharp and cutting, rippled through the arena, drawing a few uneasy smiles from his men. Garrick ignored him, his attention riveted on Brutus. Something strange was happening. The bull's breathing, initially shallow and ragged, began to deepen, a subtle rhythm emerging that suggested the animal was slowly regaining control over its own body. It was impossible, Garrick realized. Cole knew exactly where to press, exactly how to manipulate Brutus's broken frame. Cole looked up briefly, eyes scanning the crowd, then spoke without raising his voice. "Give me space. Everyone back," he said. The command carried an authority that made even the boldest ranch hands hesitate. "I need to draw the heat out." The phrase made no sense, but Garrick stepped back, heart hammering, trusting instinct over reason. Other men followed suit, shuffling backward reluctantly, murmuring among themselves. The tension in the arena thickened, a taut wire ready to snap. Just as Garrick began to feel a fragile sense of hope, chaos erupted. Two of Benton's ranch hands, faces twisted with greed and malice, vaulted over the arena fence. "He's hurting the bull!" one shouted, pointing at Cole. "Stop, or we'll handle it ourselves!" They advanced quickly, shoving Garrick aside as he tried to intercept. Panic flared in Garrick's chest, but before he could react, Cole moved with a speed and precision that seemed almost impossible. One man lunged forward, and Cole sidestepped him, tripping him with a flick of his foot. The other swung a fist, and Cole grabbed his wrist, twisting it sharply without raising his voice, letting him stumble to the ground. Not once did Cole lose his calm expression. His eyes remained focused on Brutus, his body a model of controlled energy, every motion deliberate and efficient. The crowd erupted into whispers of disbelief. No one had expected the stranger to handle himself like this, and Garrick realized for the first time that Cole's presence was no accident. Every move he made was calculated, almost as if he had been planning this moment long before anyone had ever set foot in the arena. Cole returned to Brutus, crouching beside him with the quiet certainty of a man who had seen this before. Garrick's chest ached with anxiety and awe as he watched the bull's muscles slowly relax under Cole's touch. "If he stands within the hour," Cole said quietly, his voice low, "you need to be ready for more trouble. This isn't just about a rodeo, Hayes. Benton's men aren't here to watch. They have other plans, and Brutus is only part of it." Garrick frowned, confusion mingling with unease. "Other plans? What? What are you talking about?" he asked, voice tight, barely above a whisper. Cole's eyes flicked toward Benton, who was standing frozen for the first time since the fight began. The smug grin was gone, replaced with a sharp, calculating stare, almost as if he recognized something he hadn't seen in years. Cole didn't answer Garrick, only resumed his careful work along Brutus's spine, pressing, adjusting, and murmuring in a voice so soft it was almost lost in the shifting dust. Garrick felt a gnawing unease settle in his gut. Something in the way Benton's eyes followed Cole suggested a history, a memory neither man would speak aloud. Benton's fingers tapped nervously against the rail, subtle but unmistakable, and Garrick noticed how the other men shifted uneasily behind him. Even the crowd, now held at the edges of their seats, seemed to sense a story unfolding beyond their understanding. Time stretched agonizingly. Each pop of bone, each groan from Brutus, reverberated through Garrick's chest. He clenched his fists, knuckles white, and his eyes followed every flick of Cole's hand. The stranger's movements were hypnotic, precise, almost ritualistic. He murmured phrases that Garrick couldn't comprehend, and yet they seemed to guide Brutus's body, coaxing the massive bull back from the edge of collapse. A sudden shift in Brutus's legs made the crowd gasp. Garrick leaned forward instinctively, heart pounding, as Cole adjusted the splints with deliberate care. The bull's body trembled, muscles quivering under the strain, but there was progress. A subtle, undeniable progress. Garrick's chest tightened, a mix of hope and fear warring within him. He had seen animals broken before, some that never recovered, and yet here, in the dust and heat of Redstone, something extraordinary was happening. Cole's voice broke the tension once more. "This is the moment where patience wins over panic," he said softly. Garrick caught the intensity in his eyes, the focus, the experience, the quiet power of a man who knew exactly what needed to be done. Even with Benton watching, even with his men looming at the edges of the arena, Cole remained untouchable, untiring, and unwavering. The bull groaned again, a deep resonant sound that carried through the arena. Dust swirled around Cole's boots, the late afternoon sunlight glinting off his tools. Garrick felt sweat run down his spine, both from the heat and the tension, but he didn't move. He couldn't. He trusted Cole, even without understanding why, and he knew in the pit of his stomach that interfering would be disastrous. And then, for the first time since the accident, Garrick noticed a subtle change in Brutus's eyes. They focused, brightened, almost as if the bull recognized the stranger in the black hat, not just as a healer, but as someone who had been sent for a purpose far larger than a single rodeo. Garrick's hands itched to reach out, but he stayed rooted to the spot, every muscle tense, every breath held. Benton's arms trembled slightly on the rail, his eyes narrowing as he realized that Cole's presence was not merely an obstacle. It was a revelation. The smug, confident posture he had worn since the beginning of the disaster faltered, replaced with something darker, something that hinted at recognition, fear, and perhaps even past failure. Garrick's stomach knotted as he followed Benton's gaze, realizing that this man in black had entered the arena long before anyone had noticed, and he had plans that no one in Redstone could yet comprehend. The crowd leaned forward, whispering, shifting uneasily as tension coiled tighter than any rope in the arena. Every sound, the scrape of hooves against dirt, the faint rustle of wind through the fences, the pop of Brutus's shifting bones, added to the electric anticipation. Garrick's eyes never left the bull, never left Cole, and never left the shadow that had begun to form behind Benton's cold, calculating stare. Cole worked silently, methodically, drawing the energy of the bull into precise movements that defied logic. Garrick's chest heaved with hope, fear, and awe as he watched Brutus respond, however subtly, to the stranger's touch. Each adjustment, each careful placement of rope or splint seemed to have been preordained, every detail accounted for in a plan Garrick could only guess at. The minutes stretched into a tense rhythm. Sweat glistened on Garrick's forehead, dust coated his arms, and his throat felt parched from holding back cries of anxiety and relief. He had no way to know whether Brutus would survive the hour, and yet a quiet thread of certainty began to form within him, a belief, fragile but growing, that Cole Maddox could succeed where no one else had dared to try. And then, leaning closer to the bull, Cole spoke to Garrick in a voice barely above a whisper, low and steady. "If he stands within the hour, Garrick, you need to be ready for more trouble. Because Benton's men weren't just here to watch a rodeo. They have something else in motion, and Brutus is only part of it." Garrick didn't understand, but a gnawing unease settled in his gut, especially when he caught Benton watching Cole like a man seeing a ghost from his past. The moment hung thick with heat and dust, the sun baking the arena as if the sky itself were holding its breath. Cole Maddox crouched beside Brutus, his hands moving with precision, pressing, adjusting, and muttering in a low, almost musical cadence. The bull groaned, each breath ragged but steadying, and Garrick Hayes felt his chest tighten with a mixture of awe, fear, and hope. He carried buckets of water, fresh herbs, and lengths of rope exactly as Cole demanded, his movements almost automatic now. The trust that had been shaky an hour before had hardened into something unshakable. Garrick could no longer think of Brutus without seeing Cole's hands guiding him back from the edge. Cole shifted Brutus's weight slowly, guiding the animal's massive frame onto a makeshift sling constructed from thick ropes and canvas. Every movement was calculated, the ropes coiling around Brutus in precise knots that would support him without cutting off circulation. Cole's fingers worked deftly, pressing small bundles of herbs into the bull's injuries, their scent faint but pungent in the dusty arena air. Garrick held his breath each time Cole's hand brushed the bull's spine, waiting for the inevitable groan of pain, but instead, Brutus responded with a subtle flex, muscles twitching in acknowledgement. The crowd's patience, however, was fraying. Murmurs rose into mutters of doubt. "He's faking it, I swear. That bull ain't moving," one spectator muttered. Benton Crow's men moved through the edges of the arena like predators, planting seeds of uncertainty among the anxious onlookers. "This is a scam," one of them called out. "Cole's just buying time. Wait for it." They leaned close to other ranchers, exchanging knowing glances, nudging them to distrust Garrick and his stranger savior. The tension swelled, a tangible wave that threatened to snap with every creak of rope and pop of bone. Garrick swallowed hard, gripping a rope as though it could anchor him to sanity. He shot a glance at Benton, who leaned against the rail with a smile that no longer seemed playful. The rancher's eyes glimmered with something darker now, anticipation, calculation, and a hunger that went beyond the stakes of the rodeo. Garrick's stomach churned. Something was coming, and he was only just beginning to understand that the danger was far from over. Suddenly, a small flare of orange caught Garrick's eye. A fire had broken out in the haystack near the arena. Panic erupted among the crowd, and several men rushed forward with shovels and buckets, pulling attention away from Brutus. Garrick's heart leapt in alarm. He realized too late that this was no accident. Benton's goal wasn't merely to humiliate him or Brutus, it was to create enough chaos to manipulate the law. Animal neglect, they could claim. A broken bull in the middle of a fire would be enough to seize Riverbend's prized possession and crush Garrick completely. But Cole had anticipated this. He shifted Brutus closer to the gate, securing him in a tangle of ropes so thick and intricate that no one could move the bull without cutting through them, and even then, it would take time. The knots themselves were traps, deliberate obstacles designed to buy them precious minutes. Benton's men didn't notice until they tried to approach, and Cole met them calmly, wielding nothing but a wooden cattle prod. He swung it with quiet authority, enough to drive them back without causing real harm, but with an intensity that left them flinching and wary. The crowd erupted into whispers, some cheering, some murmuring disbelief. No one had expected a single man to protect a bull against a group of men with brute force. Cole's eyes never left Brutus. Every movement, every swing of the prod, every step backward to make room was precise, measured, and calculated. Garrick realized with a sinking sense of awe that Cole was not improvising. Every action had been planned long before he had appeared in Redstone, as if he had known exactly what would happen the moment Brutus was thrown. Cole crouched beside Garrick, voice low but steady. "You just became a target for more than Benton," he said quietly. His eyes were dark, focused, and calm, but Garrick felt the chill of certainty in every word. "Brutus is standing, but now they'll come for you." Garrick swallowed, mind racing, his stomach twisting. Why would a healed bull bring more trouble?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, confusion etched across his face. Cole's gaze didn't waver. "Because some men don't just want to win. They want control," he said, still crouched beside the bull, adjusting the ropes with careful fingers. His voice carried the weight of experience, of understanding danger before it arrived. Garrick felt a shiver crawl down his spine, the first true sense that his life, and everything Riverbend represented, was about to change in ways he could not yet comprehend. Behind them, Benton's men shifted uneasily, glancing at the ropes, at the bull, and at the stranger who had seemingly anticipated every move. Even the crowd, caught between jubilation and unease, sensed that the spectacle before them was only the beginning. Garrick's chest tightened with apprehension. He had saved Brutus, yes, but at a cost he didn't yet understand, and the eyes of men who would stop at nothing were fixed squarely on him. The sun dipped lower, dust swirling in long golden streaks through the arena, highlighting every movement, every beat of sweat, every trembling muscle of the bull. Garrick's heart pounded, fear and hope mingling into a taut, unbearable rhythm. Brutus teetered on unsteady legs, then shifted to a firmer stance, muscles quivering but functional. Cole's hands hovered just above him, steadying, guiding, ready for the next challenge. And then, as the cheers of the crowd collided with the low growls of the bull, Cole's words cut through Garrick's rising panic with undeniable certainty. "You just became a target for more than Benton. Brutus is standing, but now they'll come for you." Somewhere in the back of Garrick's mind, an echo of old rumors surfaced. Whispers of a black-hatted drifter who always appeared before disaster, a man who could fix what was broken but sometimes unleashed consequences that no one could foresee. Garrick didn't know it yet, but the storm that had begun with a broken bull was only the opening act of what lay ahead. The morning sun rose over Riverbend Ranch, casting long shadows across the fields where Brutus now stood, his massive frame moving with a newfound strength that Garrick had never dared to imagine possible. Each step the bull took resonated like a heartbeat through the land, a reminder that the miracle Cole Maddox had performed was no fluke. Garrick walked along the fence line, checking the posts and gates, but the sense of unease that had settled in his gut over the past days refused to lift. Strange incidents had begun almost immediately after Brutus had regained his footing. Fences were cut in the dead of night, water troughs poisoned with substances Garrick had never seen, and his cattle were driven off into the hills as if by some unseen force. Benton Crow, for his part, denied any involvement, his smug smile never faltering when Garrick confronted him, but the timing was too precise, too deliberate. Garrick knew the truth. His rival's hands were behind it all. Cole, however, moved through the ranch with a calm that unnerved Garrick. He set up tripwires near the barn entrances, adjusted floodlights to sweep the fields, and secured storage buildings with extra locks and reinforced doors. Each action seemed calculated, as though Cole were anticipating an attack Garrick could not yet perceive. "Cole, why are you doing all this?" Garrick asked one afternoon, frustration threading through his voice. "This isn't just about Brutus, is it?" Cole's black hat cast a shadow over his eyes as he paused, examining the ranch with a steady gaze. "No," he admitted finally, voice low but unwavering. "Benton's feud isn't just about cattle or pride. Years ago, his father lost everything after trying to cheat me in a high-stakes trade. Benton's been waiting for a chance to settle that score. You got caught in the crossfire haze, that's all." He crouched beside a gatepost, running a hand over a rope, checking the knots. They wanted Brutus broken because they thought you'd walk away. But now they know I'm here, and I don't walk away. Garrick felt a chill crawl up his spine. The realization that his life and the future of Riverbend were entwined in a vendetta older than he could remember weighed heavily on him. So all of this, the fire, the chaos, the threats, it wasn't just about the rodeo? He asked. His voice trembled slightly, though his eyes were hard, refusing to show weakness. No, Cole said simply, standing and dusting off his coat. This has always been bigger than one bull. You were just the spark that brought it all to light. His words carried a gravity that made Garrick swallow hard. Disclaimer: the story you just watched is fictional. It explores themes of healing, unexpected miracles, and the profound connection between a human and an animal. This narrative aims to highlight the extraordinary power of hope and remind us that a remedy can come from the most unlikely of places.